we heard about online transaction process, OLTP, online analytical process. These two words are preferably used in the MCQ question. OLTP and OLAP. What is the difference between that? Online transaction processing and online analytical processing. Online transaction processing is known to everyone. Every day we are doing the transaction online, either by using Google Pay, either by using Phone Pay, or so many third party. So every day we are using some third party app or software to buy or sell product. That is online transaction processing. Online analytical processing. Can anyone know about this analytical processing? Have you heard about this analytical processing? No one? Yes, anyone knows about this online analytical process?
No, sir. No, sir.
So online analytical processing is nothing but where we need to do the planning of transaction. Whatever the transaction is going to be executed, we have to plan the transaction based on the historical data. So online transaction processing, data is used dynamic. Any user can do the transaction. We can do a transaction to any particular account. We'll receive the money from any particular account. So it's a dynamic kind of a data. But in online analytical processing, a complete statistic data is used, historical data. So अगर previously आपने कुछ उस पे transaction किया है, so that data we can use for analysis. That is called as online analytical processing. Purpose of data to control and run the fundamental business task. Same, it's a clear meaning of the transaction processing, जो भी हम लोग use करते हैं. But in online analytical processing, we have to assist in planning, problem solving, decision making. So we have to use that data for problem solving and decision making. Data atomicity. Data is stored in the microscopic level. And the data is aggregated or summarized stored in the higher level. So on the differences are there. You can just go through the differences of these two terms, online analytical processing and online analytical processing. Now we'll come to the very important topic, normalized database. So in InfoTQ also, they will ask the question up to 3NF. They will not ask the question on 4NF or 5NF. So maybe they will question up to 3NF. So I'll discuss with one example that how you can normalize your database up to 3NF. First, we'll consider the data is completely unnormalized, that is unorganized. Then how one by one we can reduce the components or the attributes from the application or example so that we can achieve this normal form. So can everyone knows about this normal form? सबको पता है normal form? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So every normal form will normalize the data to certain level. And the hierarchy start from 1NF, 2NF, and 3NF. Whatever the data is given to us in the initial phase, that is the raw data or raw attributes, are completely unnormalized. There is a dependency or connectivity between the attributes. Can anyone tell me the definition of 1NF? Yes, anyone knows the definition of 1NF?
Data should be unique or cell contain a single value.
So if there is a duplication in the data, that we have to remove from the 1NF. So whatever the data we have, we can remove the dependencies. That data is in the 1NF. Anyone knows about 2NF?
First of all, it should be 1NF, and column should not be functionally dependent on any subset.
Any other student?
It must be primary key and does not depend on any another subset or candidate key.
Allowed in 2NF?
Can you please repeat the question, sir?
Is duplication is allowed in 2NF?
No, sir.
So if the data is duplicated, how we can remove from the 2NF if the data is duplicated?
सर डेटा 1NF मध्ये असेल तरच तो डेटा 2NF मध्ये होतो.
So it means that you need to identify whether data is in 1NF or not. So that is the big mistake the student did in the examination. That without looking at the hierarchy of NF, they try to modify the database. So to remove that, one by one you have to verify whether it belongs to a same kind of information. If it is, then and then we can go for the further normal form. Otherwise, we cannot go for the further normal form. So it's about 2NF. What is 3NF? Anyone?
सेकंड NF मध्ये पाहिजे आणि ट्रान्झॅक्टिव्ह नो ट्रान्झॅक्टिव्ह डिपेंडन्सी नको
No transitive dependency should occur.
So transitive dependency means one component is dependent on another component. So that we have to remove. So if it is duplicated in the form of attributes, we have to remove that. So that is the hierarchy of 1NF, 2NF, 3NF. In the straightforward, in one line, how we can remember this? Here you need to remove the duplicates. Here you need to remove the duplicates. Here you need to remove the dependencies. If one component is dependent on another component, we have to remove it. And here we have to remove the transitive dependency. With the example, we'll see now how we can achieve this 3NF for any kind of problem statement. So let it be, this is my data set student marks. So I want to convert this unnormalized database into 3NF. Now listen carefully, those who not understand this NF structure or hierarchy can able to understand using this graphical representation. So unnormalized normal form. So data is completely scattered and it is not in a proper format. So duplication is there, multiple dependencies are there, transitive dependencies are also there in the data set. So it may be or may not be in each and every case. So you have to identify whether the functional dependency or transitive dependency is there in the data set. So example is, let's say student mark. Is visible as सबको attributes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So with the help of these attributes, we have to normalize the database. Don't rename the name of your relation. Don't modify the attributes. So we cannot add other attributes in this given example, or in any particular application you cannot add the attributes. Don't have the rights to add the attribute. What you can do, you can just whatever the attribute is given, you have to organize it in proper way. So student mark is my data set, which consists of student ID, name, contact number, course, mark, and grade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So total 6 attributes are there, and it is an unnormalized form. Now I want to convert this data set into 1NF. So what the specific duplication of data may arise in the data set that we need to understand. So let it be, this is my initial unnormalized data set. I'm not going to add the entries 3, 4, 5, and 6. Listen carefully. First is ID. So ID may be a consist of number, it may consist of character, or it may consist of combination of character and number. But student can be identified with the unique key, that is the student ID. अगर roll number यहाँ पे नहीं है तो, getting my point? So ID is your roll number or unique number for the student. So that is a unique key. So मैं इसको unique key या फिर मैं इसको primary key भी बोल सकते हैं. Uniquely identifying the data set. Name. So name is a single key or a composite key. It is a composite key. We can divide the name of the student like first name, middle name, or last name, or surname, first name, middle name. Likewise, we can categorize name of the student. So it will avoid the confusion, like if the student name is repeated, how we can discard such a kind of name at the time of SQL query retrieval. So we can convert the single attribute into composite attribute. So name can be categorized into first name, middle name, last name. Contact number. Contact number is a single key or composite key. It's a single key. We cannot break the mobile numbers. So contact number is a single number. So we cannot divide again into some other part. Course. Course again is a subject. So we cannot divide it. Marks. Marks is a single number. We cannot divide. Grade. So first class, second class, or pass class, or fail class. So that is the grade that we cannot divide. That is the first way that you can organize the database in one. But it is not the possibility that everybody should do the same thing like this. Some student may use another approach. Like in the given example, his contact number is been break like a mobile number or home number. So this is the second approach. So it may be possible that every student cannot normalize the database in the same way. But you cannot normalize the database in such a way that duplication is there, transitive dependency is there, functional dependency is there. That should not be there. You have freedom to add the components which are related to that field. I cannot add here blood group of the student. I cannot add date of birth of the student, which is not part of these components that has been given in the example. Whatever the component is given, like a contact number or name, we can break it into sub part. I cannot add age, date of birth, gender, any other information which is not a part of the student marks. So यहाँ तक सब clear होगा. How to break this relation? Any doubt up to this point? समझ गए ब्रेक कैसे करने attributes?
Yes, sir.
So now we have to convert this data set into one NF. So name cannot be duplicated if I break the name into two parts. Mobile number and home number cannot be duplicated if I just break into the two parts. So now every information is uniquely identified in the data set, so it's a one NF. It's a very easy process that every student can do the data set is in one NF. This is the first approach that I explained for a name. The second approach is to break the contact number. Third approach, it may possible is that without adding this component, I can use this as it is data set. Can use this as it is data set as a one. Then also it will work. So three different approaches you can use. Either you can break only one component, you can break more than one component, or you cannot break any component. Then also it is in the one NF. If we have only attributes, if you have a data which is inside this attribute, then we have to decide which particular duplication we have to remove. So that is a part of one NF. One NF to what is a student is a person. Here onwards, quite difficult. Now the student marks is break into two parts. Student basic information I place into the student table, and marks related information I can place into the another table. So this is the second step where we have to do 2NF, remove partial dependencies. Whenever I write a command or SQL command to get the student details, I'll get from other relation. If I'm expecting the student marks, that should be stored in other relation. So two separate relation now is a 2NF is partially dependent. So student ID is responsible to fetch the data from both the relation. So it's uniquely identified. It's a primary key, unique key for the relation, uniquely identifying the data set. So I'll preserve the student information in one relation, and I'll preserve the marks information in another relation. So 2NF is not means that the relation is break into two part. Make sure. ऐसे भी कुछ लोगों का perception होता है कि 2NF है तो दो relations होने चाहिए. It is not a required. We can break into again one more relation. We can just break this relation into one more table, that is course. Different type of courses are there, like mechanical, civil, electrical. We can give the name of the course ID is there. We can do that. Grade also. So I just give an idea that we can divide again one more relation if I want. So it's up to you that how you have to break the relation. Hope you understand to this point. So we can break the relation into sub-relation, and the major part is remove the partial dependencies. Now, in the student relation, there is no any entry of marks. In the marks, there is no entry of student basic details. In course, there is no any information of student, there is no information of marks. There is a separate information of course. So we have to remove the partial dependence. That is the same components we have to break it into two parts, which is completely correlated, but we can preserve into two separate relation to avoid the confusion. यहाँ पे और एक अगर example लेंगे in line with this, what we can do, let's say Facebook. What are the post I post on the Facebook that present into another table? What are my profile details are there that are present into another relation? What are my friend list that is present into another relation? So that the complete concrete data that can be accessed through my Facebook unique number, because names are repeated in the Facebook. So they have some tracking system in the background that identifying every user with the help of the ID or unique number. So it is clear to everyone that how to achieve the 2NF. समझिए सबको 2NF कैसे करना है? Yes or no? Yes sir. देखो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. इस टाइप के क्वेश्चन डेफिनेटली होंगे. मैंने ये टॉपिक यहाँ पे सिलेक्ट किए जो जिसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं. सो ट्राई टू लिसन वेरी केयरफुली. तो लग रहा है कि theoretical discussion, but it is must. अगर आपको ये नहीं समझता तो you cannot solve any example based on this concept. इसके ऊपर अगर डायरेक्ट एग्जांपल हम लेंगे तो you will not able to understand that example. Rather than I'll give a very simple example to understand how to do the normalization in the data set along with the structure. Now talking about 3NF. 1NF में तो easy से कोई भी कर सकता है, but 2NF is quite difficult to convert your original data into the 2NF with removing the partial dependencies. Now coming toward the transitive dependency. If I have a 2 relation or 3 relation, how to remove the transitive dependency from that relation? So transitive dependency means ये word आपने बहुत बार सुना,
कॉलेज से
like mathematics हम ऐसे बोलते हैं equal to p then a equal to c. Agree with me? This is called as a transitive dependency. So that we have to remove from the relation. If any transitive dependencies exist in the relation, that we have to remove from the 3. If the question is on the normalization, and the question is like this: if I want to remove the transitive dependency, is it necessary that the partial dependencies exist in the data set? There should not be a partial dependency exist. If it is exist, you cannot convert into 3NF. So it's a hierarchy. अगर 2NF में नहीं है तो 3NF नहीं होगा. अगर आपका डेटा यूनिक नहीं है तो फिर आपको वहां से पार्शियल डिपेंडेंसीज नहीं रिमूव कर सकते. अगर आपके डेटा सेट के अंदर पार्शियल डिपेंडेंसीज है तो आप ट्रांजिटिव डिपेंडेंसी अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते. अगर आपके डेटा के ऊपर ट्रांजिटिव डिपेंडेंसी है तो आप फंक्शनल डिपेंडेंसी दैट इज 4NF वो नहीं कर सकते. अगर आपके यहाँ पे फंक्शनल डिपेंडेंसी है तो कैनोनिकल कवर दैट इज इन 5NF वो आप नहीं कर सकते. सो लाइकवाइज इट इज इन अ स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड प्रोसेस ऑफ डूइंग द नॉर्मलाइजेशन. लेकिन आपको 3NF तक है. सो यू हैव टू बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट दैट how to remove the functional dependency and transitive dependency. तो अभी हमने यहाँ पे functional dependency तो यहाँ पे transitive dependency. So in a transitive dependency, which particular attribute that are related to A equal to B, B equal to C, then A equal to C. So student ID is uniquely identified in the set. So these two relation तो हमने 2NF में discuss किए थे. यहाँ तक. So student ID is uniquely identified. The attributes are student ID, course, marks and grade. So two attributes are there which we can again divide into another relation. One is course, other is grade. So if the student is having 10 marks, what is the grade for that? If the student is having 50 marks, what is the grade for that? If the student is having 100 marks, what is the grade for that? So that grade again we can categorize into another relation. Course also we can categorize into another relation to remove the remove the transitive dependency. So likewise, we can divide the relation into 3NF. So again, don't be confused that if it is 3NF, then 3 relations are there. No. अगर 1NF है तो एक ही टेबल होगा, 2NF है तो 2 टेबल होते हैं, 3NF है तो 3 टेबल्स होते हैं. It is not like that. It may have one relation in every NF. 1NF में भी एक होगा, 2NF में भी एक हो सकता है, 3NF में भी एक हो सकता है. That is also the case. 1NF में एक हो सकता है तो 2NF में 10 हो सकते हैं, 3NF में 35, 45 multiple हो सकते हैं. So it depends what kind of application you are designing for the normalization. So up to this point, I think it is clear to everyone that how to do the normalization of your data set. तो अगर यहाँ पे कोर्स किया तो भी चलेगा, यहाँ पे ग्रेड किया तो भी चलेगा. यहाँ से अगर आप और एक कोर्स सेपरेट करते हो तो भी it is correct. So this is all about the normalization process. Any doubt in that normalization process so that we can discuss this as shared property of the database. Whenever we do any kind of transaction, what processes are there? So और में क्वेश्चन होता है इधर नॉर्मलाइजेशन पे और ट्रांजैक्शन के ऊपर. ये और पे क्वेश्चन होगा, जॉइंस पे क्वेश्चन कंफर्म होगा, नॉर्मलाइजेशन पे और क्वेश्चन होगा ट्रांजैक्शन रिलेटेड प्रॉपर्टीज. सो व्हेनेवर यू वांट टू परफॉर्म एनी ट्रांजैक्शन द डेटा सेट दैट टाइम सो और क्वेश्चन होगा यहाँ पे आपको टेस्टमेंट ड्राइव में. आइदर क्वेश्चन होगा आपको नॉर्मलाइजेशन पे या फिर क्वेश्चन होगा ट्रांजैक्शन पे. दोनों पे एट अ टाइम क्वेश्चन नहीं होते बाद में. So you have to prepare either one topic very clearly. But many students are confused in the transaction. So I'll recommend you to go for the normalization for every time. Prepare normalization properly so that you're not able to get the chance to solve these questions. एक या दो ही क्वेश्चन होते, ज़्यादा नहीं होते ट्रांजेक्शन के ऊपर. So how the transaction is properly handled? So asset is the property satisfying in the transaction process: domesticity, concurrency, transparency, and durability. So these four components must be true while performing any kind of transaction. So we had already discussed in the DBM is that how to achieve this four property. Now we'll see the life cycle of this transaction process. If it is fell in between, what are the reason for that? And it should return to which state, whether it should return to committed state or whether it should return to aborted state, whether the transaction should fail or whether should it enter into the passive mode. So likewise, we have to decide the activity that happen after the one transaction. So when transaction is taken, it enters into the active mode. Whenever we do any transaction, it first enter into the active mode. Before execution, it should enter into the active mode. Once it enter into the active mode, there are two possibilities: either fail or either it is partially committed. So why the application is get fail, or why the process is get fail, or why the transaction process is get fail? There are 2-3 reasons are there. There is a hardware failure, there is a power failure, and there is a system failure. System means system software failure. So three different reasons are there. Due to that, the transaction is failed. So once it enters into the active state, and if the power failure occur, the transaction is get failed. If I'm doing the net banking, operating the net banking of a certain bank, and I'm transfer account 1 rupees from one account to another account, if the power failure occur, my transaction is failed. So it should not be entered into the committed state. It should not be entered into the aborted state. It immediately failed. If the system software failure, if my operating system is corrupt, or if my online banking app is corrupt, then also it get failed. Or sometimes it is a hardware failure. But if it is a partially committed means we can write everything, what is the operation that I want to do. अगर let's say मुझे ऑनलाइन बैंकिंग में ट्रांसफर करनी है, या फिर एफडी क्रिएट करना है, या फिर कुछ चेक डिपॉजिट करना है for certain number. So that once I put all the entries and I click on the next, I need to enter my transaction password along with the OTP that I received to my mobile number. So that particular moment is called as a partially committed. So after the final statement, it has been executed. यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है. So it is ready to execute once I click on the submit button. If I entered everything, that is my OTP and transaction password, then it is ready to execute. If it is properly entered the OTP and transaction password, then my transaction is committed. So once the transaction is committed, we cannot roll back. But nowadays, for banking facility is given the choice that once the operation is committed, you can raise the query and you can revert the transaction within 1 hour. After that, you cannot revert the transaction. So by mistake, if I did the transactions in current account number, or due to by mistake, I just enter the incorrect account number and the transactions get executed. So we can recover that transaction within 1 hour. So that particular process is called as committed. I just commit the operation. But if any failure is occurring, if transaction password is incorrect, OTP is incorrect, it is again fail. So all the failed transactions are going to be aborted. Aborted means the same amount is going to be reflected in the recipient account and we can say source and destination account. So both users are getting the same amount, whatever the amount before the transaction. So this particular life cycle is called as a transaction life cycle. अभी इसके ऊपर के क्वेश्चन किस तरीके के हो सकते हैं? What is the statement true for partially committed transaction? और उसमें options होंगे. अगर आपको ये लाइफ साइकिल पता है, you can able to give the answer within a minute. What is the meaning of aborted in a transaction? आपको रोल बैक पता होना चाहिए. ऑप्शन में रोल बैक होगा. So likewise, if you know this complete life cycle of the transaction, you can able to give the answer of any question of this transactions. समझ गया सबको ये ट्रांजैक्शन a flow. Yes or no? Yes or no?
सर कोड रिप्लेस एक बार फिर से करेंगे.
चलेगा. Before going to discuss again this transaction property, one more thing I want to share with you. Already we registered for, just a minute, process visible.
Yes.
थोड़ा small करता है इसको. I think ये भी visible होगा. So first of all, everyone is registered for NPTQ. जो लोग सेशन में नहीं उनको ये बता देना, do not send any personal message on WhatsApp to me that related to this Infosys drive. InfoTQ 23. Everyone registered and booked their slot. Few students are remaining. They have to again do the processing of registration and book the slots. But this InfoTQ 23 is completely done from our end. Student need to register for that and book their slots, give the exam in between 6 to 9. That is the first thing related to Infosys. The second thing related to Infosys is that Infosys Springboard.
हेडफोन लावला तर ते आवाज नाही नव्हता त्याचा. हो पण एवढं नव्हतं ना होतो ना होतो.
Infosys Springboard. Everyone will receive the mail.
नाही
If I'm not wrong,
मोबाईलला नाही तसं ऑप्शन तुझ्या मोबाईलला पण
30 of December. 30 December का मेल चेक करो, स्पैम में चेक करो, यहाँ पे आप इनबॉक्स में चेक करो. What are the data you have submitted to me in the Infosys Springboard? You will get the you will receive the mail for Infosys Springboard. Infosys has the collaboration with AICT. They have started the initiative for students training as well as placement as well as internship program related to Infosys. So InfoTQ is different. Infosys Springboard is different. Yesterday, one of the students asked this question, sir. I received the mail of Infosys Springboard. So Infosys Springboard has given the training on Azure. I don't have my mail open right now. So I also received the same mail because I also registered on the Infosys Springboard. So this is the second thing that Infosys has started the initiative. You can check your mail the 30th December. अगर नहीं आया तो आप आपके स्पैम में देखो, आपके इनबॉक्स में देखो. You'll get a mail. उसमें आपको लिंक पर क्लिक करना है. Once you click on the link of Infosys Springboard, it will be related to the Infosys Springboard portal. You need to change your password. The current password is given in your mail. You have to change the password immediately. Once you change your password, you can able to access the training in KIP modules. If you want, you can do the training as well. This is the second thing related to Infosys. Third thing related to Infosys. Make sure that these three things are different. They are not aligned or that not are the same. पहले दो में किसी को डाउट है, समझ गए दोनों प्रोसेस? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Once it is completed with these two, again Infosys has started from this year with Infi. With Infi for 23, 24, 25 batch. So they have started these three initiatives. InfoTQ already we have done registration and with this lot, and we are going in the process of this Infosys drive for 23 batch. Infosys Springboard. It will give a training internship certificate. If you register on that, you will get the access of training modules. Third one is hack with Infi. So like it seems like a hackathon. You can participate in the hackathon. If you able to select in the hack with Infi, or if your ideas get selected, they will recruit you. They will provide you a job opportunity. But it is not only the job opportunity. The various activities that are going under the Infosys, they will ask you to participate in that if you win Hack with Envy. So might be you will be the brand ambassador for Infosys if you are selected with Hack with Envy. So registration link I'll share with you today itself. Do the registration. Last date of registration with Hack with Envy is I think 5th of February. If I'm not wrong, it is given date in the InfoTQ. And I think 14th of February. I'll mention the date in the mail itself. And there is one session on 7th of February, in the evening, Hack with Envy. So do attend the session. I'll share the link of the Hack with Envy with you. So everyone should register for the same. If you have any error, any issue related to Hack with Envy or Infosys Springboard, you can ping me personally. But do not ping me anything for NPTQ 23. It was not in our hand now to do anything with that. Already we asked the HR many times related to book this part of the students. Some students are facing the problems, but will not get any solution from them as well. So we are also helpless in that case. But if I have any doubt related to this, I'm the institute coordinator for this for our GGSF. So all the rights are me. So I can help you in this Infosys Springboard. Again, Hack with MP. If you face any kind of problem while the registration with Hack with MP, then you can link me personally. So clear everyone? These three different aspects of Infosys are going on for your batch. समझ गए आपको ये?
Yes, sir.
Any question that you want to ask related to these three? ये मेल आ गया सब लोगों को Infosys Spring Board का?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes,
very
sir.
good. तो आज आप लोग हैक विद इन्फी को रजिस्ट्रेशन कर देना. I will send the mail or WhatsApp for it.
तर आज पण कोणतं तरी सेशन होतं 3 ते 6 त्याचा पण मेल आलाय.
कशाचं होतं?
MS Azure.
हाँ Infosys Spring Board मध्येच ना? Same
हो,
mail
sir.
I also received. Yes, वो mail मुझे भी आया था. But why I not share with you these details till date? Because you people are get confused in the InfoTQ and Infosys Springboard. This is dear learner, MS Azure. What is MS Azure? So every 3 to 6, same mail I also received. So you can, if you want, you can register for this. जिन्होंने किया हो कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं Microsoft Azure. उसके बाद फिर क्लाउड पे भी कुछ आने वाले हैं. इसके ऊपर एक ट्रेनिंग भी होने वाला है for us, and then they will share the clear guidelines about this Infosys Springboard. We'll share with you as soon as we receive the guidelines from them. So talking about the transaction process, whenever you do any kind of transaction, it should enter into two type of processes, whether it is an active state or whether it is in the passive state. But whenever the core banking has started, then they are remove these passive transactions. So in the earlier day, what happened? Our amount is transferred in the evening. Our amount is transferred when we deposit into one account. It is get reflected in the next day. It is reflected in the evening. It is reflected after 2 hours. Like these things. And that are called as a passive activity. And that has been completely discarded from the transaction process. So only active activities are there. So active activities means if you start any process in the transaction, any kind of transaction, whether it is a deposit, whether it is a withdrawal, whether it is related to account opening, any activity related to transaction process, that is initially active. Once the activity is active, उसके बाद वो क्या हो सकता है? Execute होगा या फिर fail होगा. 3 reasons to fail the activity is that whether hardware is not support, sometimes system software is not support, sometimes power failure is occur. So due to these 3 reasons, the transactions get failed. So it is not properly executed and it's failed directly. In the 3 cases, as I said, if these 3 possibilities are not in perform or not able to fail the transaction, then you are coming to the partially committed. In the partially committed, what we do, we perform the operation. Suppose I'll give example of net banking जो मैंने दिया कि वहाँ पे आप लोगों ने अगर किसी को ट्रांसफर करने amount, you just select the beneficiary, you have to put the amount, whatever the amount you want to transfer, select the details of that recipient, and then click on the next. When you click on the next, immediately you will get a OTP along with the transaction password you have to enter in your net banking portal. So unless and until you enter that OTP and password, your transaction is partially committed. Once you enter that information, your transaction is committed. And if it is incorrect OTP, incorrect password, then it is get failed again. So this is the system, this is the user failure, this is the system failure. Initial. This is the user failure. User enter incorrect details. So that's why the transaction is failed. Otherwise it is committed. And whatever the transaction are failed, that enters into the abort. It means the operation is rolled back completely and both accounts are reflected with the same values. So this is about the transaction process. समझ गया अभी?
Yes, sir.
So we'll stop here. In the next session we'll discuss this processes. जो मैंने अभी आपको एक्सप्लेन किया उसका एक एग्जांपल हम देखेंगे. करंट स्टेट और डिजायर्ड स्टेट में क्या डिफरेंस है. देखो यहाँ पे 1200 1100. So we'll see through the example how we can see the transaction in the current and the desired state. और फिर उसके बाद हम ये भी देखने वाले हैं. This is the final things that we have to discuss. What are the different applications, which database are used, and what is the need of that databases. That is important. तो कल शायद से conclude करेंगे. Any doubt you want to ask, you can ask. Otherwise, we will conclude the session. Yes. Anyone want to ask anything? Fine. So I'll stop here.